What's up, guys? It's Brandon Flash. You're joining me here at a Tesla Magic Dock station with a Genesis G80 Electrified, which is fully electric, by the way, contrary to the name. And we're going to be charging it on a Tesla Supercharger for the first time. Like I said, this is a 2023 Genesis G80. I was actually able to rent this from Avis. Have this for a little bit, put a couple hundred miles on it. Overall, pretty good. I'm going to make a separate video about the car itself, but just give you guys a quick walk around here. But the point of this video, we are at a Tesla Magic Dock site. So if you're not familiar with what that is, basically it's a Tesla version 3 supercharger. And if you're familiar with superchargers, you'll notice that this is a little bit different. So this is a bigger area because it's actually housing an adapter. And Tesla recently changed the way that you activate this adapter or pull it out. So if you just yank it out, you just get the normal version 3 supercharger cable with your 500 volt NAX plug, as you would expect at a supercharger. However, there is a new way, rather than having to activate it on the app. You still have to activate it on the app for now to actually start charging, but to get it out of the Magic Dock, you press and hold this for 2 seconds, and then you push up, you can hear that click, and then you pull out. And then that way you get the CCS adapter on it. So just like that. Then there's your latch and everything. So to put it back in, you just do like that, give it a nice shove up there. It's a little bit on the heavy side, but not too bad. Definitely better than most CCS handles. But again, just like that, you get Tesla. Press this for 2 seconds, push up, and then pull out just like that, and then you get your Magic Dock handle. But I'm going to open up the charge port on the Genesis first because it's a little bit of a pain, and if you're not familiar with this, you might be wondering where the heck the charge port is on this, but it's actually right here, and it blends in really nicely in the front grille, actually. I'm not a huge fan of front charge ports, realistically. This one feels kind of flimsy, and if you're driving in like a snowy or kind of a muddy or even just bugs, realistically, having to touch that is not ideal. It just gets full of crap. And then you've got these, which are probably the worst charging flaps I've ever seen, realistically. So you have little grip points, which is kind of nice, but you have 2 of them, so both for your DC and your AC. And then you're going to see in just a second, but this bottom DC cover actually kind of gets in the way as you plug in. But there you can see your CCS1 plug. Hyundai, Genesis, Kia have committed to switching to NAX, as pretty much everyone else has at this point. You can actually notice this is a slight green to it, even though it's a really dark color. So I'm going to, again, press and hold for 2 seconds, push up, just like that. We'll pull it out. I'm going to plug it in. And then I am going to have to stop the video for a second to activate it, but you can see here, just like that, we are latched. So let me activate the app. 1 second. All right, so I've just started charging. It's 49 cents a kilowatt hour here for non-Tesla charging. You can hear the car just announced charging started. And for those also not familiar with Hyundai's eGMP platform, even though this technically isn't a eGMP in the traditional sense, it uses an 800 volt class of vehicle, which basically means that it's over 500 volts. However, this particular vehicle is about 522 volts nominal, so really low packed voltage for an 800 volt class vehicle. But this does not have a pack or a booster, or at least not a dedicated booster to take that 500 volt max from the Tesla Supercharger, which is the maximum output of a version 2, version 3, or currently version 4 with version 3 version 3 with version 4 posts supercharger, and then step it up to that 800 volt class of charging or over 500 volts. The way that Hyundai Kia Genesis vehicles work is it actually uses the rear motor inverter to step up that voltage. However, that means it is limited to about 100 kilowatts of boost, even though this vehicle can do, I believe, about 180 kilowatts DC fast charging, potentially even more. I'll have to test that out. But right now we're getting 89 kilowatts, which is not terrible, but certainly not great. Looks like it's projecting 29 minutes to 80%. So nothing to really complain about. There we go. 97, 102, 106. What the heck? 120. Okay. That's actually pretty excellent. it must have just hit a temperature threshold. The battery should be relatively warm, but 120 kilowatts is really nothing to complain about there. So Genesis does claim being able to go from 10 to 80% in 22 minutes on an 800 volt capable 350 kilowatt charger. It doesn't actually have to be 350 kilowatts. However, most chargers that can give the full power that this vehicle needs are 350 kilowatt, though you could have a 240 kilowatt charger and get full power. You could even have a 180, 200 kilowatt charger that's 800 volt capable and give it very close to the full power and still get very close to that performance. However, right now at 26%, it's saying 26 minutes to go to 80%, which isn't bad. We started, I think, at 21% and it was saying like 28 minutes to 80%. So really, it doesn't add a ton of time to be on this 500 volt classic charger from Tesla on the Magic Dock because the charge curve is so flat. It's basically going to hold this 122 kilowatts that we're at currently at 27%, probably all the way to 80% realistically, just being how aggressive that Hyundai Kia is with their charging on these vehicles. It's really impressive. Actually, these cars actually tend to charge slower than expected due to cold than overheat like a lot of vehicles do. So overall, really impressed actually with the performance here. I was expecting it to get like 80 something kilowatts max, and we're actually getting 122, which I have no complaints about actually. So there we have it. That is what you can expect when you're charging a Genesis G80 Electrified on a Tesla Supercharger, whether that's with Magic Dock at a Tesla Supercharger that's open to all non-Teslas, or in the very near future when you can actually get an adapter for your existing Hyundai Kia Genesis or any non-Tesla EV and then just have your adapter yourself and go to any version 3, version 4 Supercharger and just activate it, plug right in. I think that Tesla has added a way to pull the handle out with the Magic Dock without having to activate it on the app is very promising. Means that they're likely planning on adding a way to do some sort of plug-in charge, auto charge, anyway, some sort of way that you can just plug in and it starts charging without having to manually activate it with your app, which is, I think, the way the industry is kind of going, and especially important on superchargers when there's not a screen or anything. So that way you can literally just plug in after your first time setting it up, which is pretty excellent. So if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. See you guys on the next one. Thank you guys for watching.